Leftover from, who's, you're French, I thought. Here, you can pass them back down that way. Thank you.
One more for good measure. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the HRA to order. And first item on our agenda is the roll call.
Commissioner Rubenstein,
Here.
Commissioner Gotel, Commissioner Gepner,
Here.
Commissioner Crom, Chair Sandal.
Here. Next item is approval of minutes. We have the special HRA meeting of February 17th, 2013, the special HRA meeting of February 19th, 2013, and the regular HRA meeting of February 19th, 2013.
Have a correction.
Oh, okay. Tell us about it.
On the meeting of February 17th, although I was not there, there is a typo, and it's important under the candidates who were interviewed. Heidi Geibor's name is misspelled. It's Gaibor.
Okay. Any other corrections? Or additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it as corrected.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the HRA agenda, and we do have a consultant here who is number 6, and I've been asked to move that up higher on the agenda. So if it's all right with the group, I will swap 5 and 6,
Sounds good to me.
if that's okay. All right. With that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we have presentation by the Center for Energy and Environment regarding Home Energy Squad program, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. I just wanted to...
Do you want to state your name and your address
Yeah.
for the record?
My name is Stacy Boots Camp, and my address is 16599 Franchise Avenue West. That's in Rosemont. Unfortunately, I don't live in this wonderful city of Richfield. But I'm here to talk to you tonight about a program for the residents of Richfield, which I think many of you have already heard about. I just wanted to give you some updates and let you know what we're going to be doing this year to start promoting the program. So I'm the outreach coordinator for the residential programs at the Center for Energy and Environment. And you probably, sorry, I'm trying to, I haven't used one like this before. This is just kind of a rundown of the programs that we have at the Center for Energy and Environment. We do residential programs, commercial programs, public building programs. We have a lighting program for small businesses, and we do a lot of research. So we've been around for over 30 years, and we've worked in the city on the MAC program too. So what I wanted to talk with you about tonight is some of the community engagement and education that we're going to be doing here in Richfield, starting when the program publicly launches. First, we wanted to invite leaders of the community like yourselves and some of the other commissioners and city council people to participate in the program before it was publicly launched. So tonight I'd like to invite you all again, if you're interested in signing up for a visit before it goes public. We'd love to have you experience it and then be able to talk with your friends and neighbors about what a great program it is. So I'll also talk a little bit about the home energy visits and the financing we do, and then the quality assurance program that we have. So for the community engagement piece, we're going to be tabling at lots of events, farmers markets, different community engagement activities. We'll be giving presentations at places of worship, also doing community lunch and learns at businesses, and for city staff people, anyone who'd like to have us come and present, we'd be more than happy to do that. And we'll be doing some direct mail pieces, also reaching out through newsletters, any way that we can to get the word out about this great program that you guys are helping sponsor in Richfield. So our belief is that good habits, good products, and good investments are what lead people to taking action in programs like this. So studies have shown that only 3% of people take advantage of the information they receive from home energy audits. And in our program that's been around since 2009 that we've been running, we actually get 25% or sometimes more people taking actions and doing these upgrades in their homes and helping to keep the communities a really nice place for folks to move and live in. This is what's included in the Home Energy Squad Enhanced Visit. So it's only $60 to the homeowner with the city buy down. It is a 2-hour home energy visit, and you'll receive things like door weather stripping, programmable thermostats, compact fluorescent light bulbs, water heater blankets, and many more things that I didn't list here. So it's similar to an energy audit in that there's a blower door test and the major mechanicals are checked. So the chairwoman has actually had a visit at her house, and so if you have any questions, she might be able to answer those for you. I was there, so it was a fun experience. Also at the home energy visit, we give out a report, which is a personalized report of actions that people can take for making upgrades in their home's energy, and also gives your house a home energy score. So we like to recommend things to people that can be an investment of payback of 10 years or less. So these are kind of interesting reports and give you a roadmap for moving forward. We also have a follow-up and financing assistance. So after the visit, people can call with any questions they have. We'll also be there to work people through rebates for both the City of Richfield and utility rebates. And by participating in this program, the homeowners qualify for 0% home energy loans for upgrades like insulation, air sealing, furnaces, air conditioners. So that's, you can't get a better deal than 0%. And then we have a quality assurance program where we go out and check up on contractors that are on our recommended insulation and air sealing list. So this is just to keep them honest and make sure that they're doing work because doing the work correctly, because insulation isn't a thing that you see like a kitchen remodel. So we just want to make sure that these people who we've certified are going through all of the necessary standards that are actually higher than industry standards. So we're really happy to be providing that kind of high quality work. And this just shows when past participants have been surveyed, there is a huge satisfactory rate. 99% say they would recommend it to a friend. So we're hoping that people like you guys will go out and be champions for our program, and that lots of folks in Richfield sign up for this. So I think you've already received some memos and mailers about this. We will be opening this up to the public and sending out a citywide mailer within the next month here. So I just kind of want to give you an update on where we're at and invite you guys all again to participate before we publicly launched it. So thanks for your time today. That's all I had.
Thank you, Stacy.
Yes.
Question.
Go ahead.
You talked about that 0% financing, which is very nice, and I'm really glad to see something like that because the PACE program didn't pass, we know, to be able to do some of that. When you talk about that financing, is it also for alternative sources of energy, such as wind, solar, or geothermal?
Right now, we're working on getting that approved, but we don't currently have financing for renewable energy residential projects.
Okay.
But I will definitely let you know if
that's really
gets
exciting.
written in, because a lot of people have been asking us about that, so we're working towards it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have questions, Madam Chair, as well.
Go ahead.
Are you funded by the government, or is it just the city portion covers the cost of your firm?
The majority of the funding for the program comes from the utility companies, CenterPoint and XL pay a majority of the cost for these visits, which are sometimes valued at over $400. And then the city of Richfield pitches in $70 per visit, and then the homeowner pays $50 towards the cost of the visit.
And for staff, is this a HRA funded thing or a city funded thing?
The additional subsidy to bring it down to the $50 is an HRA-funded activity. So thank you.
And if I can, I would certainly highly recommend it. I had a visit on a Monday morning bright and early at 7:30 before I went to work. It was about 2 hours long. And they checked me out from top to bottom. They checked my insulation in the attic. They checked the furnace downstairs. They checked out the air conditioner. All of my light bulbs were swapped out for fluorescent light bulbs, and I paid my $50. I got well more than $50 worth of light bulbs. It was a good buy. And they were very helpful. They also left you with a little refrigerator temperature gauge to put in your freezer or your refrigerator to see if you're operating at an optimum temperature. And even a little card you could stick to check your hot water to make sure that that was at 120 degrees and not too hot. So they really were very thorough and very helpful, and I would certainly highly recommend anyone who wants to try it.
Thank you for your recommendation.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Yes, I appreciate your time tonight.
All right, item number 4, Mr. Devich.
Thank you, Chair Sandall, members of the HRA. Item number 4 is considering a resolution which authorizes the Executive Director and the HRA Chair to execute instruments necessary to purchase 7 and 9 vacant and foreclosed homes for up to $543,000 from the Housing Redevelopment Fund, and that's through December 31st, 2013. And I'm going to ask John Stark to take this particular item.
Thank you, Chair Sandall and Commissioners. This is something that the HRA has authorized for the prior 3 years. Annually, the HRA budgets funds to purchase properties for Richfield Rediscovered and the new home programs. This allows us to remove small, substandard, obsolete, or dilapidated homes and then replace them with new homes. The current housing market offers opportunities for the HRA who acquire these properties at reasonable prices. The current market of vacant and foreclosed properties, however, is competitive, and flexibility to respond quickly to opportunities to purchase vacant and foreclosed properties is important. Lenders sometimes enforce strict time guidelines, and only a limited number of lenders offer preferences to public agencies. So staff also uses a first look program that offers cities and nonprofits the chance to purchase properties before they are available on the open market. However, they both require a response to the purchase within days. Again, the HRA did authorize the same action the prior 3 years, and staff is proposing to extend the authorization again in 2013 to allow the Executive Director and HRA Chair the authority to acquire foreclosed properties meeting the following parameters without obtaining any additional HRA approval. And these are the 5 parameters. 1 is the property is vacant. 2 is that it's been foreclosed. 3 is that the property has been deemed blighted. 4 is that prior to acquisition, staff establish an appropriate sale price based on recent sales activities and/or assessed value. And then finally, that expenditures for all properties do not exceed a grand total of $543,000, which is the budgeted amount for 2013. So with that, I would take any questions.
Go ahead.
This has been really successful in these past years since the economy has been down. We've been able to purchase quite a few, have we not?
Yeah.
Our money's bought a lot more.
We've gotten quite a few, and we think we've got them because we're able to respond so quickly. We think that we've been able to get in and make offers and get them accepted.
And do we have a few that we're looking at right now, too, possibly?
I don't know.
Okay.
They come up so fast.
Yes, I know they do.
That, yeah, I just not sure.
I know there's still quite a few homes that are still in the back burner waiting for
Yep,
that.
Karen says we do have
Well,
some
okay, so
that
good.
are in the hopper.
You know, this has really turned over some great homes for some families and everything here. It's been a really successful. I certainly would support the HRA moving forward with this.
Okay. Do you want to put that in the form of a motion?
I certainly would.
Okay, well, let her make her motion.
So I will make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the executive director and the Housing Redevelopment Authority chair to execute instruments necessary to purchase 7 to 9 vacant and foreclosed houses using up to $543,000 from the Housing and Redevelopment Fund through December 31st, 2013.
And I'll second that. Okay, you got a question, Doris?
The
Chair
500
Sandal, can I interrupt for just a second?
Yes, go ahead.
It's really imperative that everybody speak right into their microphones. I'm not picking up people if you don't speak right into them.
The 543,000,
Oh, there's the brief. Sorry.
Does everyone have their mics on? I guess that's the other question.
Yeah, make sure
Okay.
that the green light's on.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
This is great.
Having done this over the last number of years, I agreed it needs to be a very timely thing, because we've lost houses because we weren't able to respond promptly. So, all right, then I will call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and then we have item number 6, Mr. Davich.
Thank you, Chair Sandal and members of the HRA. Excuse me. What we're looking at here is a presentation and approval of the Lakes at Lyndale Connectivity Plan. We have a consultant here with us on this particular project, but I'm going to ask Karen Barton to just kind of summarize this before he starts.
Thank you, Chair Sandal and Commissioners. As you're aware, the city has, or the HRA has been working with SEH consulting firm to put together a comprehensive connectivity plan for the Lakes at Lyndale area. It was recognized quite some time ago that we've got a lot of amenities in the Lakes at Lyndale area, and we don't have a really good way of connecting them and having signage to direct people to find all those wonderful amenities. So over the past several months, SEH has been working with the HRA and city staff, the policymakers, several residents through open houses, et cetera, businesses and other stakeholders to vet potential concept ideas and recommendations. And they're at the culmination of that process and are presenting a final draft plan for you this evening. And upon presentation of the draft plan, we'll take questions and would ask that you adopt that plan so we can start implementing it. I do have Bob Cost from SEH here this evening, and he will be doing the presentation.
Okay. Mr. Cost.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. You're seeing the presentation on your monitors? Oh, there we go.
Yes,
And-
we are now.
All right. So we were in front of you a couple of months ago, I believe, or maybe about a month ago, giving you an update from our public open house, which was well attended. We saw several of you or many of you there. And since that time, and you gave us some input, thank you. We also ran a public survey and got some additional input. We've made some adjustments to some of the documents and then have pulled the project together in the form of a report, which I believe you've been supplied with. So this evening, we wanted to just kind of walk through some of the highlights of the project. I need to see how this is going to work.
I think
All right, we'll try page. Nope, that doesn't work.
Technology, isn't it wonderful?
All right.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you. So the report is organized into 6 chapters. There's an introduction, the study area assessment, connectivity plan opportunities and recommendations, chapter specific to wayfinding. There's a description and summary of the public engagement, and then an implementation chapter. So here's an aerial photograph of the lakes at Lyndale. The plan lists specific recommendations in an effort to maximize the use, promote safety and enjoyment of the amenities, of which there are many in the area. What we wanted to start off with was really kind of a mission statement to make the Lakes at Lyndale District, Richfield's thriving urban center, There are some policies and goals out of the city's comprehensive plan that form the basis of the endeavor, developing the Lakes at Lyndale area as the city center, establishing a land use pattern, and supporting infrastructure that creates a walkable environment, so lots of focus on walkability, providing quality parks, recreation areas, and trails and walkways that connect the community, recognizing the importance of the Lakes at Lyndale area as a community center for commerce, and continuing to develop and redevelop the area as a mixed-use center for living, commerce, and recreation. The factors that we considered directly in the connectivity plan were safety, accessibility, connectedness between the major destinations, destination visibility, and effective area-wide wayfinding. So as I mentioned, we had a number of touch points with folks in Richfield, starting with our site tour, which happened November 1st. A cool day, but much nicer than today. And we walked through the entire area. Some of you were part of that walk, took notes, got some good input. Everybody got on the same page, so to speak, about what it was like to move through the area. We did our planning and met multiple times with staff to adjust things and make the plan better. We ran the open house on January 15th. Then we were in front of you on January 23rd to make some presentation and get some more input. We ran the online survey then of all the documents so that folks could comment and look at the plan from the convenience of their own computers, and that ran for a month. And then have prepared the report and made some adjustments to that, and now we're here in front of you this evening. And then we'll be in front of City Council on April 9th, hopefully, to get the project fully approved. So the opportunity areas, this is sort of how the plan ended up, if you will. And this really shows the feedback that we received from the open house. Again, we had lots of folks come out, and if you remember, we did a bunch of dot voting. We had a bunch of forms for people to fill out and recorded all that information on the plans. And so, for us, it was a really fun process, and it feels like that the plan was community-driven in that regard. We got some good reaction, and I think some good comments. As I said, we started with a study area assessment that was built off of that site walk and really looking at a variety of data points from the city's comprehensive plan, from traffic counts from Hennepin County, from the bicycle plan, and then lots of time on the ground using photographs and other conversations to understand where people make decisions to get to and from, identifying, what's private property, what's public property, all of those sorts of things, which we captured in this map. So safety and accessibility strategies were looked at, multimodal strategies, streetscape and amenity strategies, and all of those led to a series of connectivity principles, which I won't read them in detail, but know the users and know their destinations is certainly critical in this kind of a project. Putting the pedestrians first, the whole point of the project from our perspective, and I think yours also, was that there's a lot of people living in this area, thousands of folks, and some great amenities. People weren't sure, was it public? Can I get there? Should I, be in this space? So we asked those questions and started to define this whole issue of connecting the dots, understanding which places really needed to be highlighted, and then anticipate change and plan for flexibility so that the plan can get rolled out over a longer period of time in a series of interventions. And as things change on the ground, that you've got a framework here that you can work with over time, so it's not all cast in stone. The connectivity plan and opportunities, as we were before you in January, there were some suggestions, and we just wanted to highlight on this map that we've tried to listen, and for example, have revised the location of the bike trail and connection on the west side of Richfield Lake there, which was pointed out to us during our presentation. The connectivity plan and opportunities and recommendations, there's 19 specific recommendations. I won't go into them in detail, but we tried to basically create an implementation process here that divides them up into short-term, medium-term, and long-term implementation. And each one of these 19 projects is detailed and illustrated in the document. So I think there's some good guidance for that. Just a quick example of looking at Lyndale Avenue and West 66th Street as one of the opportunities. So we show a existing cross-section with the sidewalks and the bus pull-out lane on the east side, the divided median, and then through our discussions with staff and input from the public, propose a alternate section for the same area where we narrow up the street lanes by a foot. We're able to get 5-foot cycle lane on each side, keep the bus lane, and do some landscaping and other improvements between the future new building that's coming in down at Lyndale and 66th. And then each of the interventions proposed, we show a cross-section and a plan view highlighted and illustrated and described. So it's kind of a conceptual user manual in that regard. Other examples, you saw some of this at the open house, and these have been refined. So for example, related to the issue of crosswalks, we show different types of crosswalk treatments for transit facilities, 3 different levels of transit facilities that could occur, various types of investments. So at the very sort of minor investment would be to get some decorative seating and litter receptacles. Sort of in the middle might be to do some signage and some landscaping. And then at the higher end, similar to what you have up at the end of the street here at 66, a decorative shelter, for example, and some signage and wayfinding. Connection routes and orientation. Again, there were some recommendations from the draft that we've picked up here. For example, adding a primary point of arrival identification figure or some kind of a kiosk that would happen at along 66th, where you come south into the sculpture garden, and then adding a orientation and mapping component where the new Lyndale Gardens development is occurring for their semi-public, private public space there. Some examples here of signage and wayfinding. These are from some other projects that our subconsultant, Signage Design, had done in Bloomington, for example, in the lower left, and then some other work that our firm has done at the Indiana Dunes area in Indiana. So a way to use materials, color, texture, the same sort of similar mapping, just to start to create a district identity, we think would go a long way to tying everything together. And then finally, we pulled a visualization together. It's always good to look at plans and sections and those sorts of things, but we offered this as a vision for when the new facility comes in down at the corner at 66th and Lyndale, some outdoor dining. So this tries to kind of pull many of the elements that we're proposing in the plan with lighting and banners and just making things more pedestrian friendly. And you can also see the painted Sharrow bike lane and the bus pullout there. Implementation, as I mentioned, short-term over about a 5-year period, a mid-term 6 to 10 years, long-term farther out than that. And so again, working with staff, have pulled together a series of how we would distribute the 19 specific projects across the site. Any questions?
Comments? David?
I have some.
Sure.
The first one isn't real serious. The packet that you gave us had tin type, a hue. Was there a significance to that?
Oh, the PowerPoint that we pulled together?
Yes, yeah.
Only that I didn't want to spend the whole evening on the 63 pages with you.
No, I'm saying that there's a hue to this.
Oh, a color to that.
Tin type, yeah.
I understand. No, that's really just in there to kind of create a decorative look to the document.
Okay, I thought I was behind the times, and that was the new look. The 66th Street, you have a section where you're putting a bike lane in as part of the roadway, which is a bicyclist I like to see. But the question comes in, there's a group that's also working on what 66th Street might look like. Was there any coordination with that group?
Well, there was some brief discussion, actually, that where we were showing the bike lane at 66th and Lyndale. We did have discussion with the city's traffic engineer, but we haven't been participating directly in the 66th Street revisioning and design process to date. So, that would probably be, as you point out, a next step as to, the city's bike plan calls for some cycle facilities on 66th itself, and how those would happen, I think, would definitely want to be coordinated and fleshed out as part of that process.
But you must have had some basis for your recommendation of the way that you were proposing?
Well, it was basically out of the city's bike plan. So we used that as the guiding document.
Okay. On Lakeshore Drive, you had proposed a bike lane only on the north side and made it two-way. Was there a reason for that I couldn't figure out?
I think it was a matter of space. Rather than getting it on both sides of the street, having a two-way bike lane that was along the park seemed to vet pretty well with folks. But again, I think, these are things that you would obviously spend more time in an engineering analysis as you were to, roll something out like that.
Okay, I saw Doris, you had some questions, comments?
I read this very, very carefully. I live in this district, literally. So I have a great deal at stake in this plan. And for the most part, I was very happy with what I read. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have one big question in terms of especially on 66th Street, it is a county road, is that there was no mention in there about the open secret that Hennepin County intends to do some reconstruction of 66th Street throughout almost the entire part of its length in Richfield. And I was wondering, why is that not mentioned here? I have other things to ask when he answers that. Do you know why that wasn't mentioned?
I don't. Frankly, I think it should be mentioned, so we will make sure that gets in the final document.
Okay, and how it relates to the rebuild?
Yes.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
I do remember seeing some reference to it in there.
Yeah,
But
it's probably in there as
barely,
a
if it
reference, but
is.
again, because it has a life of its own that's way beyond what our study is really funded to involve. If it's in here,
I believe it said, acknowledged that this study was going to happen, but that it was going to happen after this, so this should be used within that study.
I believe that's how we
Yeah.
described
it.
it.
In passing, so it's really a much more important impact on this whole thing than it to be mentioned.
We
just
can give
in
it some more
passing.
emphasis.
Yeah. Secondly, I was as an old English major, very unhappy with a lot of the way this was just plain written. Terrible, terrible proofreading, things that were repeated, things that were misnamed. It made me feel insecure about your real interest in our community. Let me give you a couple examples.
Sure.
Page, let's see here, still part of the, page 9. You refer to Kirchner Sculpture Garden. It is not the Kirchner Sketch Kirchback Gardens, if I am correct. Another thing is a real misconception on page 13 when it talks about the 5-minute and 10-minute walks. I live there, And if I'm standing at the corner of Lyndale and 66th Street, to get to the Hub Hopping Shopping Center is not a 10-minute walk. And that's something that over and over I see in various PR materials that goes out about Richfield. I remember reading, going to City Bella's website, for example, and it talks about its accessibility to Lunds and Byerly's, and doesn't mention that across the street, by the way, kitty corner more or less, is Rainbow. Isn't that remarkable? People just don't want to acknowledge that we are a middle-income community and that people shop at Rainbow, stuff like that. So,
Well, the walking distance information is based on standard transportation unit of walking 4 feet per second. So, that's an average walk, probably for a, 30-year-old person.
Yeah.
So younger people have a shorter gait.
No,
So they're
give me a
walking
break.
slower, older people.
me a break.
So it's pretty standard practice when we look at transportation. So,
I was disappointed in that.
so we can adjust that to say approximate.
Okay, I mean, really, the difference between on page 16, in the center column there, that's a disaster. On the third bullet point, you talk about 65th Avenue, 66th Avenue from Emerson Drive. I mean, where are these streets? Who was doing the proofreading? Did you have an intern write up these documents and no professional who actually worked on the project proofread it? I just was very disappointed throughout the document. There are mistakes like this that just I didn't feel were giving the respect due our community that we are due and that we're paying for in this report.
May I suggest, Doris, that if there's typographical errors and just misinformation, that you provide him with a correction?
Okay,
So
I
that he
will
can
give you my
correct his
copy.
version.
I have it all written up.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, on this end. Comments, questions?
I would like to know what you think are the most important of your 17 or so points that we should really focus down on.
Well, I think from the team's perspective, we really think that the 66th and Lyndale intersection is absolutely critical. And it does go back to the point that commissioners have made about that project moving forward with Hennepin County for redesign and reconstruction. It seems like that's a great opportunity when you combine that with, I believe it's at Wellington Development, who has a new building that now that the economy is coming back, would seem like that might be coming back to the table. That plus the, again, so from our perspective, it's leveraging these redevelopment opportunities that are soon to be happening, like the redo of the Lyndale Garden site, and getting that connected well with the Richfield Lakes. And I guess thirdly is just the whole notion of wayfinding. It seems to us that with proper care and design, that be the kind of project that you could set it up and roll it out over a period of time. So once a look were established and a set of signs and colors and those sorts of things, to really direct people into the right locations were set up, then it would be a matter of taking advantage of opportunities as they occur, like the Wellington build-out or Lakes at Lyndale or other things, where you can then kind of pull those things together and get them built concurrently. So, I mean, those are sort of the three major things that came to our mind.
So maybe a design study or something that would actually put together some of those components would be an early step.
Yeah,
so
we
that we
think
could-
so. So, I
Okay.
mean, you could build upon this work, albeit once the corrections are made, and really pull a wayfinding program together for the Richfield Lakes area with, with color, with messaging, and the right standards. And then, over a 10-year period or so, start implementing it. So you wouldn't have to do it all at once. You'd want to do all the design at once, I think, so you had it set up, and get pricing from a vendor. And then it really could take on a life of its own.
One other quick question. We have such a neat sculpture garden, and people are often surprised to find the space behind City Bella. And we've got these ideas of having more of a signage or an entryway marking that shows that something's back there. The other thing about them, though, is that once you're there, you're not quite sure you're supposed to be there. It's a quasi-public space that doesn't feel necessarily public. And I just want to ask you if you would give us some example of how you deal with that, and what do you do to make people feel more like they're welcome there?
Well, I think there's a couple strategies that you would undertake. Certainly, not to, harp on it, but having signage that makes it obvious to people that that's public space, not private. And in the promotion of the Lyndale Lakes area, it's one of the things that we call out, that you've got the gardens over at City Bella and the fountain, and the sculpture garden. And if those really are started to become promoted and signed as public space, I think that starts to go a long way, because as people start to use them and they're signed that way, then it feels more like you are supposed to be there. It's the fact that right now you have to sort of stumble upon them and wonder. And so I don't think it takes a lot of investment to turn that around, but I think it really is that combination of some promotion, some signage, education, and then, getting maybe even some events to happen there as part of city celebrations and other things. So then people recognize that, this is really the place to be.
Thank you.
You're
I like what you've got here. I
Thank
want to
you.
compliment you on it. Thank you.
And with some better proofreading, we'll make it much better.
Did you have anything? Okay. I guess I really appreciated the report as well. And my favorite picture, if you can go back to it, is the overhead from the sky level.
Oh,
Which gives you, now it's, I just want to point out, of course, that there are a few things missing, and that is that the Kmart is still there and the LA Fitness is not.
yes, it's not an up-to-date aerial.
Yes, nor is the new apartment building there as well. I think that'd be up the street. But it's a great view, and you don't realize until you kind of look at the overall scale of it from up above, how close all of these things are and how developed, plus you have two lakes visible. I mean, that's really pretty amazing.
And how urban it is, but yet how
Yeah.
sort of you feel like you're, in the woods and at the lake
Mm-hmm.
very quickly.
Yeah, so, and the people that live in that neighborhood know all that,
Yes, they do.
because they're very proud of living and utilize the nature center, the Richfield Lake, and, but some of the rest of us drive by on 76th Street and never know they're there. So,
Yeah, it really pays to get out of the car here.
yeah. So,
Madam Chair, and to
Yeah.
that point, let me say that I thought it was extremely advantageous to walk that area, even as cold as the day was, and it wasn't that cold.
It wasn't, nothing like today.
Yeah, nothing like today, and I still would have walked it because it would have been worth it, to tell you the truth. It was very much worthwhile to talk and have several people, and I know staff were following me a lot as I was talking about things and everything. It was just wonderful to have them and have that exchange, and it came out in the results here as we
Well,
said.
thank you. We found it very helpful also.
and it's nice to see green grass. I'm looking forward to it.
It's coming.
All right. So there's a few typos to be corrected, and this is going to come again before the Richfield City Council as well.
Yes.
So, and staff is looking for an approval or acceptance at this point.
Approval of the plan.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with typos corrected.
Thank
There you
you.
go. Thank you. All right. And our next item now is now number 5. We are going backwards in time. And I believe Corrine was going to be coming in? Yeah, okay.
Yes, Chair Sandal, members of the HRA. Now, item number 5 is a public hearing to consider an amendment to the business subsidy agreement and a resolution approving the First Amendment to the funding agreement and restated business subsidy agreement by and between the HRA and Lyndale Gardens LLC. We're getting Corrine.
Okay.
She'll be here shortly. And I'm also going to now, I'm going to call in and get, Colleen Carey is out of town, but I'm going to get her on the phone so she can participate via phone and answer any questions anyone may have. And of course, representatives are also in the audience, both from Lyndale Gardens LLC and from Lake Winds.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit on the agenda and fill the time. And if there's someone else that needs to follow me, that's fine. We do have an opportunity on the agenda for the HRA to discuss items. And we're going to put it up on the screen, which I think they'll pick up shortly here. On the overhead, if someone could pick that up. All right. Here we are. We're gonna get some. There we go. Okay. This is a public forum on organized garbage collection, and it's being sponsored by the Richfield League of Women Voters on Saturday, March 23rd from 9:30 to 11 in the City Council chambers. It's an agenda item that the council has looked at briefly once before, and the league apparently was interested in it and wanted to follow up on it. So it's open for anyone in the public who might want to listen to it. And I just wanted to make that known. I would have done it at the last council meeting, but I didn't have the flyer with me. So it's, again, open to the public. The panelists will include County Commissioner Randy Johnson, John Nephews, a former Maplewood City Council person, and they were the city that recently introduced organized garbage collection in Maplewood, a staff person from St. Louis Park, and then 2 representatives from local garbage collectors. So that's available if anyone is interested.
This has come up to the city council several times, so I think it's really good to let the public weigh in on this as well.
Okay. All right, we'll get back to item number 5. We have Colleen Carey on the phone. Can you hear us, Colleen?
I am here.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, Mr. Davich, we'll take it away here.
And I'm turning it right over to Karen Barton.
It's going to be hard for me to hear, so talk loud.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Sandel and Commissioners. Back in November 2011, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority entered into 2 agreements with Lyndale Gardens LLC relating to proposed redevelopment of the former Lyndale Garden Center site. The 2 agreements were a funding agreement, which provided for a total of $650,000 to assist the developer in the acquisition and rehabilitation of the site, which consisted of a grant of $335,000 and a forgivable loan in the amount of $315,000. And they also entered into a business subsidy agreement as required by state law related to the assistance being provided under the funding agreement. Both agreements authorized the funds to be used only for acquisition and substantial rehab of the garden center property. The funding agreement also required that the $315,000 loan would be forgiven only if the developer met the following requirements prior to September 1st of 2014. First, the developer would provide the HRA with sufficient evidence that the rehab activities described in Schedule A of the funding agreement had been completed. 2, the HRA and the developer would enter into a contract for private redevelopment, providing for the redevelopment of the garden center property and possibly the adjacent lands, and for the use of tax increment to assist in the payment of qualifying activities. And 3, the developer would provide the HRA with written evidence in the form of a certificate from the construction manager of the rehab activities that 25 jobs were created by the rehab activities. The developer has already satisfied the requirements of 2 and 3 above. At the time the developer and the HRA entered into the agreements, the parties believed that it was financially feasible to rehabilitate and reuse the existing garden center building, and that the developer could find a tenant for the building. Since that time, the developer has obtained an agreement with Lake Winds Co-op for the site, under which the existing building would be demolished and Lake Winds would construct a new building on the southerly portion of the developer's property. Lake Winds desires to own the southerly portion in fee rather than be a tenant. The developer has proposed the funding agreement and the original subsidy agreement be amended so that the scope of the project includes both the acquisition and substantial rehabilitation of the Lyndale Garden Center, or in the alternative, the demolition of the Lyndale Garden Center and the construction of an approximately 30,000 square foot retail building, which is expected to house a cooperative grocery store. Given the new direction the project has taken, the developer has further proposed that the developer be provided a one-year extension to satisfy the requirements for forgiveness of the loan under the funding agreement. We do have, as you know, Colleen Carey from Cornerstone Group, Lyndale Gardens LLC on the phone. Beth Pfeiffer is here from Lyndale Gardens LLC, and Dale Woodbeck is here from Lake Winds Co-op. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
And I'm hoping everybody can hear me. Can we just get a further description of the need for a one-year extension on this and what that all entails? I know there were some setbacks on the project and things have gone slower. Can we get some details?
Certainly. The one-year extension just allows them additional time to complete this portion of the project, since it kind of is a new direction. Instead of doing the rehab of the existing building, they're focusing on tearing down the building and constructing a new building, so it just allows an additional amount of time to achieve that.
So further, when I think about the agreement in general, the agreement that we signed was in generally for the entire site, not just the Lyndale Garden building. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
so we were talking about the cleanup, we're talking about the other outlots, we're talking about the easements, we're talking about all the other things that go with making this parcel work, correct? When we talk about the contract.
Yes,
and the loans.
The developer will still be responsible to meet all the requirements in the business subsidy agreement and in the contract for private redevelopment.
And in the past, have we also done similar things like this with contracts in the past?
We've made amendments to contracts in the past when things have arisen.
Okay.
We haven't done a business subsidy agreement before, so this is a new track. But
Okay. And if you could, I would appreciate, John, if you would explain where the money came from. I think that might be helpful for all of us to recall.
Yes, the money came from, with tax increment financing districts, there are two pieces to the puzzle. It's kind of the money going in and the money coming out. The money coming in is the tax increment generated by the development. It's the new taxes that they're paying over what had been there before. The money going out has to be based on a set of approved expenditures, things that the state legislature has allowed cities to spend TIF money on, such as acquisition, relocation, and those kinds of things. Sometimes in a TIF district, it generates more TIF than there were actual expenditures for that TIF. And that was the case in two of our TIF districts. I believe it was the ILN TIF district and the, I don't remember what the other one was. It may have been the Interchange TIF district, which is where Dick's Sporting Goods is now. But again, where in those two TIF districts, the amount of increment was greater than what was needed for them. So what normally happens in that case is when the TIF district is decertified, like ILN was at the end of last year, whatever is left over, whatever there was increment more than costs, is sent back to the county, and the county then divvies that up to all the taxing jurisdictions. In 2010 and 11, I believe it was, the state legislature passed something called the Special TIF Act, I think is what they called it, or the TIF, Temporary TIF Act, that's what it was called, in which they said cities, instead of saying that you have to turn this back to the county for disbursement to all the taxing jurisdictions, we're going to allow you to spend it in your own jurisdiction on projects that generate jobs, provided they do so by a certain date. In this case, the date was December 31st of 2012. And that's how this funding was identified. The excess, for lack of a better term, TIF in ILN and the interchange districts was pooled together. Several business subsidies were awarded. This for the $650,000 for Lakes at the Lyndale Garden Center. An additional fund for Pizza Luce, I believe it was $350,000,
Yeah.
$250,000. And then a third was made available to Ark Valley Village for them to make some improvements. We had advertised these, the availability of these funds throughout the community, and really any business in the community had an opportunity to apply for these funds. That legislation has since expired. There's talk in St. Paul about maybe extending it, but until that's actually voted on, you never know where that's going to go.
Okay, so if I understand what you've said correctly, that was money that was pooled in the TIF district, and if we had not used it in development within Richfield, the bulk, all of it would have gone back to the county, and we'd have gotten a smaller portion of the use of it. Is that right?
Right, and our portion of all the taxes that come in is somewhere around 30%. So instead of being able to spend 100% of it locally, we would have received about 30% of it back into the city's general fund.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we have Beth up here. Is there anything you'd care to add to us? Tell us, one of the questions raised was having to do with the timeline. How are things progressing and what's happening?
Yes. Well, thank you for having us again tonight, and I'm very pleased to have just followed the Lakes at Lyndale Master Plan. I hadn't yet seen the recommendations come out of that and was very happy to see how our project is really going to help implement that Lakes at Lyndale vision. The timing that we are working on currently is we do have a purchase agreement with Lake Winds Co-op. Lake Winds Natural Foods, sorry. Dale Woodbeck is in the audience, and he can confirm that we are working towards a June closing with them. The plan with them is that the building will be demolished just prior to closing so that the property can be replatted for the sale. And then I will let Dale speak about his construction timeline on that portion of the site. We are in our design development phase. Our plans came before Planning Commission about a month ago, and first reading of City Council last week will be before you next week, or be before the City Council next week for the second reading for our PUD and rezoning request. And then with hopefully the approval of that, we will be moving full steam ahead into our construction documents, completing our construction documents, getting our final financing terms in place, and we hope to start construction either by the end of this year or early next year. It will be about a one-year construction schedule. We are planning at the moment to build the remainder of our portion of the development and at one time, which would be the retail and the housing, along with all the public amenity areas on the site. So we're looking at, late 2014, early 2015 opening.
Okay. All right. Did you care to add anything? You'd have to do it up here.
If we close in June, our plan would be to start construction in July and open first quarter of 2014.
Okay. All right.
And Beth, for us, can you just tell us what it's meant to have the $650,000 from the TIF overrun that we had? Can you tell us what that meant to the project?
Well, to be honest, it is truly what has enabled this project to happen and to go forward. So we are extremely grateful for the city's assistance and the city's forethought in investing in this location and investing in the ability to do a project that's really going to become a town center for the city of Richfield. Without this funding, we may have been able to do a project at this site, but it would not be the same kind of project that we're doing, and it would not be the same end result for the city of Richfield. Our ability to have your assistance in helping acquire the site helped us to be able to close quickly to get a site that's been blighted for and vacant for 11 years under control and ready for redevelopment. It allowed us to stabilize the building so that it didn't become more of a hazard than it currently is, and to do a lot of cleanup on the site already, just cleaning out graffiti, trash, lots of trash, doing some interim landscaping, beautification projects for the site, and getting the community involved to get this project really rolling. So we are extremely grateful for your participation and an ongoing partnership in this project.
And I forgot, Colleen, because you're not sitting in front of me, did you care to add anything to anything that's been said?
I'm sorry, were you guys talking to me?
I am, Colleen. I don't know if you've heard what's been said, if it's too far away for you or not.
Oh, we just lost her.
Oh. We'll get her back. That's okay.
She would say thank you, too.
Whoa.
Where is she? An offshore island?
If you could repeat the question, it's hard for me to hear the stuff that's
Well, I think the question to you is a general one. One is, how is the $650,000 benefiting the project? And secondly, then what if this HRA were to not pass this item tonight? What would that mean?
Okay, so maybe I could say just a couple words about how the financing is intended to work from our perspective on this project. When we came to you with the request for assistance a year and a half ago, it was our intention that we would assemble the necessary financing to acquire the property, to stabilize it, and put together a development plan. And so our objective always was, our intention always was, have permanent financing that would come in when the project was ready. Some of the money that we applied were grants from the state. Some of them were longer-term loans from Edison County. One of the shorter-term loans from an organization called LIFT. That's in addition to the equity that we put in. So that pot of money is, some of it has to be repaid. And it gets repaid when we get the permanent financing for the different pieces of the property. So the way this would work is that we will get a mortgage on the housing and the remaining portion of the project. That will go to do primarily two things: to out interim financing and to pay the development costs to build the apartment complex. When we had intended to have the garden center be a rental, a retail property that we owned, the same scenario would have applied. We would have gone out for a first mortgage, got the first mortgage, and used funds to pay down some of the interim financing. So in this case, if we will use proceeds from the sale to do the same thing that the mortgage would have done. It's to pay off the interim financing and to pay the development costs for the project. So if we are not able to do that because we have to use the sale proceeds to pay off the city grant, then we would obviously have to cut $650,000 out of our project budget. So I'm afraid the things that get lost in that are all of the enhancements that are what we had so hoped to create here for the Richfield, and also the thing I think you gave us money in the first place.
It was somewhat hard to hear you, but what I gathered from that is that the funds that the city has advanced will make the project, will provide the amenities, I think is what I'm understanding you to say, that make this a very unique development.
That's correct. I'm sorry if I'm not talking loud enough. The money that would, the amenities that we're putting into this project are not specifically ones that a tenant, a renter at the apartment building is going to pay more for. They will pay how much they need to pay for a two-bedroom apartment, but they aren't going to necessarily pay a lot more for this town center. So what we want to do was have the city of Richfield help us create something that was really much more special than what we would get with the apartment building.
Okay, thank you.
That was helpful.
All right. Any other questions or comments that anyone has up here?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we just ask you to show us, point at on this graphic that we have what the community amenities will be?
Definitely. Let me see. Let me zoom in just a little bit more here into the center portion of the site plan. So, okay, this right here, this is 64th Street. As it currently enters the property, that location is not changing. That still will serve as the main entry piece to the development. And I'm sorry, when I zoom in this far, it gets a little fuzzy. But some of the public amenity spaces include this area right here, which includes sculptures and outdoor splash pad. This is like pop jets of water that will spray up in the air that children of all ages can run through. It will be fully accessible, so truly for everyone to use. Our hope is that during the winter months, we'll flood that and it will become a skating rink area as well. So the intention for the public amenities here are for them to operate, yes.
What's the square footage of that little space? It's really pretty small.
I do not know the square footage of that particular area off the top of my head. It is about 80 feet wide, I believe, at the wider end. I don't want to answer incorrectly, but I can definitely get you that information. We did compare this and overlaid it with other skating and water areas to make sure that it would be large enough and that this could be used for that function. In addition, terracing down towards the existing lake is some seating built into the hillside, as well as a stage area for performances. As you may be aware, we've had a number of discussions with Parks and Rec about whether or not this might become the city's concert location. We're very much interested in forging that partnership, but regardless of whether or not that particular concert series ends up here, we will work together to do performance, to have outdoor events, to be a place that weddings could happen, picnics. It might be where a yoga class takes place on a summer afternoon. It's meant to be a true outdoor space for the community at large to use. Off to the side of that, we have some outdoor seating area, and that includes a community oven, and this is an outdoor pizza oven that we will operate, and we're not exactly sure how this is going to run yet. We're not into the details of that yet, but this will be an operated thing, not like somebody can just come up and shove a pizza in there. But this is meant to be an opportunity for families to shop at Lake Winds, to stop at one of the restaurants that will hopefully be one of our tenants, and to sit outside and enjoy their dinner. We are also building this trail connection that connects to the existing trail, including one additional bridge. Currently, zoom out just a little bit. Currently, there is a very lovely walking path around Richfield Lake, but it is not connected to this land area at all. So the public path that we'll be putting in, we will be constructing with the project, and then we will be deeding that back to the city. So that will be constructed and built as part of this project, and then the land and the trail will be deeded back to the city, to the Parks and Recreation Department. This is a bit of a cleaning up of some old property lines. This is the current survey, and as you can see, there's a very odd property line that goes out here, which actually includes the existing bridge and a portion of the existing trail. And this 28% of the property, along with some right-of-way and street, will be coming back to the city of Richfield as part of this project. let's see, we also are planning to put in some outdoor gardens, and these will be gardens that are food producing, are educational, might serve as a source of community shared agriculture for our residents. We plan to have a farmer in residence who will operate and manage those, and for them to be fully open to the public to walk and wander through. We hope to have a foraging berry patch where people are just welcome to come through, pick strawberries, eat them. The whole goal of the project is for this to feel very open, very public, and very inviting for city residents.
And what about the farmer's
Excuse
market?
me,
Go ahead,
Beth?
Colleen. Go ahead.
Beth, could you also talk about the community space in the apartment building?
Yes, and Commissioner Gotel, I will also talk about the farmer's market as well. So that is what I was talking about before was the outdoor space. We also, it's kind of fuzzy on here, but we also are planning within the housing building to have a community room. This community room will serve as sort of the traditional party room for an apartment building like this, but if you were to compare it to party rooms being built of this size, this is about 3 times the size of a community room that would be in a typical apartment building. And that's because we want this to function as a true community room. This is a space for educational classes. It's a place for cooking demonstrations. It's a place where salsa lessons might be taught. This is really meant to be available for use by the community at large. And then also, Commissioner Gotel, you asked about the farmers market, which will be covered parking up here along Lyndale to create a nice street edge. It will also incorporate a new bus shelter at that location. And on Wednesdays from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., it will be the satellite market for the Richfield Farmers Market. That is starting this summer, June 2nd, I believe, is the first date. And it will include some really fun events this summer, July 10th and August 7th, concerts out in the parking lot, and a lot of fun. So we hope you will start coming this summer and continue to come.
Okay. I have one more question. Will the Lake Winds building and then the retail that you will be building as well, would they be built simultaneously?
Probably not. Lake Winds will probably, most likely not. They will be built first, and then our building will come in afterwards, and they will be back to back. So because our development, we are anticipating the financing as all part of one package, we won't be ready to start construction in July when they're ready to start construction.
Okay, and now if we look at this Lakewood building, which is very close to Lyndale, and of course, we have the bus stop just north of there, will there be like a presence of a storefront? I mean, it faces Lyndale, we want walking there, we want people to be inviting, and we haven't seen renditions yet, and I'm sure there's lots of discussion already, but that's, it's pretty important, it's our center of our city, part of it, even up that far.
Yes, and that's important to us as well. And I'm trying to find a picture really quickly here, and maybe Dale can speak to how Lake Winds is currently looking at laying out their store while I look for a pretty picture.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Could you tell us about this? There's a lot of people excited about you coming to town.
As are we excited about being here. Thank you. This is it's a great opportunity. It's a great site. And what you saw in that drawing is really just a placeholder to show 20,000 bulk square feet. I should have, probably by the end of this week, we'll have a better site plan and I think a preliminary interior layout. But I think what you'll see is a building along Lyndale Avenue that looks similar to what you see there currently. I mean, because of the curve in the street, the building design seems to work better with a staggered, I'll try not to use my hands, but with a staggered building side so that you don't get a monolithic feel from, that massive, I think what you're looking to not have, a big mass of concrete or brick or whatever along Lyndale Avenue. And
yes, and will be an opening along Lyndale.
I'm not far enough along to say, but there'll be, there will be the appearance of a storefront at least. If we can figure out a way to get a working door there or put the entrance.
Another entrance, yeah.
More on the corner of the building.
Yes, that would be lovely, actually.
But I'm expecting to use, if with this staggered wall, if you can picture that, there'll be opportunity on the north side of each one of those walls to do glass, at some height, whether clear story up above or kind of working windows. So that's generally what I can say about the building.
I was hoping there'd be like an outdoor cafe kind of a
There
thing
will
out
be.
front, in front of
Yeah,
it,
the
though.
question is, can we do it on
On
both the
Lyndale.
Lyndale side and the
Yes.
lake side, or one or the other? But yeah, that we will want to use the outdoors as well to, we've got that, at least on the west side of the building, that ability to do something that overlooks the lake, since the grade changes so much in our favor, to have you feeling like you're sitting up above and being able to get a view of the lake and the natural surroundings. Trying to integrate this building into what's there is what's really, for us, going to make this sing. I think we
Oh,
can,
yes, okay,
we
agreed.
can sell groceries anywhere, but that's really not what this is all about. That's obviously what we have to do, but we want to participate and have our building acknowledge the site and work with that site. So we'll have some architectural render. I do have some renderings now. They just weren't, I guess, final enough to put in front of you. And
Okay.
I want
Understand.
to wait until we can really get this to be exciting and something that I can say this is really what we're planning to do.
I just think it's very impactful what goes along Lyndale because of it being our downtown area.
And what I'll say is our architect is extremely aware of that.
Okay.
And of what your feelings are and stuff about that. We know we need to acknowledge the avenue, we need to acknowledge the parking lot, we need to acknowledge the lake. And that's part of the challenge, I think, of the design, is getting it to work all the way around.
And just for your information, you maybe not actively involved at the point in time when we were dealing both with LA Fitness and with Menards, is that windows are a big deal here. So.
Almost as big as trees in Richfield.
We like
you
windows.
mentioned something about interfacing with the lake, et cetera, et cetera. Don't forget the interface with people who live in the apartments and the condos on the south side of the lake, on the west side of the lake, et cetera. We have not enjoyed looking at Lyndale Garden Center for a long, long time. We certainly want this to be an asset that when we look out over the lake, from our point of view, that it is something that is not intrusive, that is something that's compatible with the lake, rather than something that's intrusive upon it.
Okay.
Point
Any
taken.
more comments before we open up our public hearing?
Exciting.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
All right. So this is a public hearing. Does anybody else wish to speak on the topic? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now we have before us an amendment, a consideration of an amendment of the business subsidy agreement and adoption of the attached resolution approving the First Amendment to the funding agreement and restated business subsidy agreement by and between the Housing and Redevelopment Authority and Lyndale Gardens LLC. And I will move that. Is there a second?
Yes, I will second.
All right, open for further discussion.
I'm excited to see the renditions.
So, yeah, it'll be good. And if you come before us again soon, we'll be happy to look at it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and no further discussion. I will call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you so much for coming. All right, now back to our agenda. Oh, thank you, Colleen. Appreciate it. We almost forgot you. All right. Next item is any additional HRA discussion items? All right, and then finally, the executive director's report.
Madam Chair, members of the HRA, I really don't have anything to report this evening.
Okay, and last but not least, claims and payroll.
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it, and we look forward to great things. And we stand adjourned.